Welcome to the Happy Doc, the voice of fulfilled physicians. This show is about bringing inspirational, creative, successful, and happy health professionals to you. Get ready to learn how you can be a happy doctor too. What's up, guys? This week we do not have an interview guest, but I wanted to take the chance to write a little reflection piece this week after finishing my first month of intern year. Well, ish, kind of, because I finished a month of the ER and now I've done a week of internal medicine clinical rotation. And I thought this would be a good place to do a little bit of reflection and start to talk about some of the things I'm learning along this path. And as you guys may or may not know, I'm going into psychiatry. I'm a psych intern, but the first about 5 months of this year for me, I will be doing medicine-based rotations. So it's really great because I can, take my experiences and, for people who are interested in emergency medicine or internal medicine, I can also kind of talk to you about that perspective as well. First off, I've really enjoyed the start of intern year. It's been really tiring at times because the hours are really long, but at the same time, it's been challenging and it's been a huge amount of learning. Regardless or aside from the medicine aspects, just having to deal with being an actual employee and learning how to work with a team, learning how to balance a bunch of relationships and things of that nature has been super important. And these lessons are extremely important regardless of what field of work you're in. So it's definitely been good to be a part of that. My goal for this episode is just to basically reflect on some of the things I've learned, and I hope that this can be a tool that you guys can use to essentially take my experience and adapt it to your life. So if you resonate or you feel like you're really connecting to certain parts of this conversation, or you're like, damn, like that's a good idea, I want you guys to use it. That would be super awesome. And the main point of why I'm doing what I'm doing here on the Happy Doc, to get really cool ideas out there and for people to be able to utilize them. So I hope you listen to this and you enjoy some of the content, something that you might be able to take from this conversation and use in your life. So one of the things I learned right off the bat was to do the right thing. So we can title this section, Do the Right Thing for Your Patient. When you're working with many, many people, nurses, doctors, different consult teams, the janitors, miscellaneous techs and staff, the picture can get quite muddled on who you're doing the work for, and you can have a lot of voices kind of talking to you at once, lots of tasks going around. And the main thing and the main individual in this whole process that we always have to remember is the patient. So, when I'm working, if anyone wants to bash me for taking too long on my note, or a nurse is rolling their eyes because they think I'm a newbie and I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm just not really sure what to do next, I just take the time to look at my patient. I ask myself, what does that patient need right now, and how can I care for them the best way that I can? And if that need is being met by a nurse, or if that need is being met by someone else, that's cool, and they can take that part of it. However, just always looking back at the patient, knowing what is the right thing for them at that time, and making sure that's being taken care of. That's one of the things that I've learned that's been super important when it comes to patient care and reorganizing my thoughts while I'm doing work. So number 2 flows in quite nicely on what I've learned, and that's knowing the patient. Sadly, I've already taken the half-ass approach at times. especially when I'm exhausted or I came in a little late and, things aren't flowing as they really should be. And I quickly review a patient's chart, and then I just go right in, and I don't really take the time to know the person I'm about to see. And that bites me in the ass like every time. The reason why is because if you don't do the front-loaded work, then you don't really know the person, and then you go see them, and then they get pissed off because you didn't look at their chart, and they already know that, the documentation is in there. So it's really helpful just to take a little bit of time to do a little bit of front-loading, organize your thoughts, and then head into the room. And it's very helpful in a bigger picture sense because, number one, if I know kind of a better picture of what's going on, regardless if it came from a sign out, like I heard it from a physician, or I heard, information from a nurse, or I look at the chart and figure out what's going on a little bit before I go in, it organizes my thoughts. It lets me build a picture of what's going on. I can start to build a differential in my head, and it allows me to focus my examination. Obviously, I don't want to be too focused because I don't want to miss anything or have my thoughts be skewed, but it just gives me an idea of what I'm about to head into. And again, in a bigger picture sense, if I'm able to better know my person, my patient, right from square one, I have this really awesome history that lets me then build out the documentation more effectively afterwards, and then I can better relay that information to the team / build out the discharge stuff and all of those things more efficiently. So knowing the patient ahead of time really allows everything to flow nicely from there. It's, again, bit me. It's really embarrassing when you have a bunch of doctors staring at you and you stare at your sheet and you don't really know what's going on and you've seen this person for 3 days. That happened to me, which is really sad. And it's something that, I obviously don't want to happen, but, obviously we have a lot of patience, and point being is to take a little bit of time to know the person you're working with and to know their information is helpful from many aspects. So knowing your patient, that's huge and something I've learned definitely this month. Number 3, and when I say these numbers, by the way, it's not in any specific order, but number 3 is sleep. And I want to go on a little sidetrack here. I don't know if you've heard the term force multiplier, but sleep is a force multiplier for me. I first heard this term used by Tim Ferriss, and if you haven't heard of Tim Ferriss, check out his podcast and some of his books. It's been actually really life-changing for me to read his stuff. But I digress. A force multiplier is a concept in which by doing X action, you make the following actions in your life easier or better, or you have improved flow. Meaning, when I sleep 7 to 8 hours, for example, it allows me to be more effective throughout my day. And if I take those 7 to 8 hours to sleep, the following day is done more efficiently and with more enjoyment. It provides me with the energy that I need to do good things for my life after work as well. So it's a force multiplier, meaning when I take that time to just do something good for myself, it helps me in many ways and it pays dividends. And this has definitely been the case for me. Every time I don't sleep enough, I immediately regret it in the morning. So getting the extra hours from 5 hours of sleep to 6 hours of sleep, or from 6 hours of sleep to 7 hours of sleep, that extra hour is huge and it pays dividends. And also, the more awake I am, the easier it is for me to retain information, the easier it is for me to flow in my day, the easier it is for me to just take care of the people I need to take care of and transfer information to people. So sleep 100 times. If for some reason I haven't been able to sleep, it really is terrible. And honestly, we work so many hours. It's tough to find those times, but it's just so important. The next thing I've learned is number 4, which is comfortable shoes. I know a lot of people care about style, but for me, style is a lot less important if it gets in the way of my own comfort and the way I function. And I personally have a lot of lower back issues. I was an athlete for most of my life, and, I kind of hurt my body in a lot of ways. So one of the ways I need to take care of myself is to make sure that I'm comfortable. We stand a lot, we do rounds on patients, and it's really important to be comfortable and just be able to focus on what you need to focus on. So, like, for example, in the emergency room, I was wearing Crocs. And you can say what you want about Crocs, for example, if you think it's not good looking or whatever. But, for me, wearing those Crocs was like having heaven on my feet. And guys, Crocs company did not tell me to tell you that. I just think they're just super comfortable. And they're also pretty cheap. So I definitely enjoyed having Crocs. I actually have 2 pairs of Crocs that I rotate so, that they don't wear as much. So that's been really helpful. When I wear professional shoes, I actually have some Crocs suedes that I wear, which have been really comfortable and helpful. They're not the best looking shoe, but if I'm trying to dress up, then I'm trying to dress up to go out or something. I don't really need to look the best in the hospital. I just need to look professional and get my job done. So comfortable shoes have been really helpful. I'm sure when you're in the hospital, you see that there's plenty of people wearing the Dansko clogs. They're wearing lots of different shoes. So whatever works for you, I just prefer wearing those guys. And comfortable shoes has been a small but really important thing to making sure I'm comfortable in my day. Number 5 is to keep moving. And I put actually in parentheses here, keep moving, but also use your opportunities. So for me, I have a little bit of a ADD personality. I like to do lots of things. I like to keep my mind active during the day. And I've learned that if I stay stagnant too long, I get bored, I lose my efficiency. So for me, I have to keep my mind moving or things just start to get really stagnant and I can't concentrate. So if not much is going on, I always ask myself what I can do to help the team. Or I ask, what can I do to teach some medical students around me or volunteers or pre-meds? Or I go and I see a patient and just check in on them. I take those opportunities to keep moving, to go grab a snack. And as you guys know, or maybe you haven't heard, when you get a chance on your day in medicine to pee, to poop, to drink water, or to eat, you should definitely take it. You never know when there's going to be a new admission or an emergency is going to pop up. So taking an opportunity to move, taking an opportunity to use that time to help someone, taking that opportunity to do something good for yourself, like you should definitely do it. Actually, as an aside, as a med student, at one of our hospitals, we had like a prayer room / meditation room, which was kind of cool. So when nothing much was going on, I wasn't really helping anyone. I just took some time to sit with myself in that room and actually rest and calm my mind. So that was super helpful. Take the time to take care of yourself if that time is allowed. A lot of people, can complain during their busy days that they don't have time for themselves, but those opportunities do pop up and you should take advantage of it. Number 6 is med students are totally awesome, and I learned this particularly this month. I didn't realize how helpful the 3rd and 4th year students were until I could actually start using them, and not using them in like, haha, you can do all my scut work. It was more so that, especially, for example, if I have an 8-patient panel and I have to see a lot of patients in the morning and make sure that I get the correct information, the pertinent stuff, that doesn't give me the time to be as detailed with each patient. Now, if I have 2 students and they're each taking a look at, 2 patients more closely, how awesome is it that I can get a super detailed history, that I can get these little details that I would have never even thought of from the student because they just have more time with them. And, I was a student once and I was very eager to learn from each patient. So it's a great opportunity to, number 1, learn about the patients in greater detail. Number 2, you get to dig into the pathophysiology and the disease processes of the patients you have, and understanding how we treat that a little bit better, what is the process that we take in the medical profession, what are the standards of care for that disease, and to have the students there to look into that is super awesome. So having students there, even though, arguably the intern and the team and the attending physician is supposed to teach the student also teaches us a lot. So med students are awesome. They can be used to help with teaching moments. It helps us learn about treatment. Students are incredible. And honestly, I just have a big shout out for all the medical students. I appreciate what you do. And when you help the team, it is sincerely appreciated. I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, from the crazy workload that we have, it's super helpful to have students take a little bit of that burden off. Número 7 is protecting myself. There is, I think, a difficult thing or part of medicine in which we are caretakers and we want to take care of others, but we constantly sacrifice our well-being in the process. And I think this is built into a medical system that has produced a bunch of martyrs. So, and I'm saying that very aggressively because I think it's true. I've had a lot of personal conversations, one-on-ones with many students, with many doctors, and this is a theme, which is we forget to protect ourselves. So having had those conversations and talking to lots of successful doctors, there comes a time where you need to take care of you. There are times when there's institutional requirements or there are multiple tasks that need to be taken care of for patients. But when my bladder is full and I can't think straight because I haven't eaten, I need to do those things. I used to not take care of myself as a student, but now, especially after, again, listening to so many doctors, 9 times out of 10, when I do what I need to do, I can then come back and hit my work hard and with better focus. So taking that little time to grab a snack, taking a little bit of time to use the facilities is going to help me with patient care. And earlier I spoke about force multipliers. Well, not peeing, not pooping, not eating, not sleeping, not drinking water, those are negative force multipliers, which means by not doing it, it's going to drain me and it's going to affect patient care. It's going to affect the way I interact with the team. So, honestly, just take the time to do what you need to do when you need to do it. And if there isn't a good time to do it immediately. I take the time to protect myself. I make sure that I care of my personal physiology so then I can take care of other people's physiology better. So my biggest message in this part is take the time to do you, take the time to protect yourself, and you're going to hit and help patients better by doing that. And don't let anyone not allow you to take those opportunities. Number 8 is understanding the flow. So every day I'm on a new rotation or I'm in the clinical rotation that I'm in, I learn a little bit more about the process of a certain disease and what happens over the course of that disease, or I learn a little bit more about the system, the administrative tasks that need to be getting done, or the just the flow of the day and how that looks with my team. So as I learn more about the flow that ultimately takes a patient into the hospital, what happens when they're there, and what we need to get done in order for them to get out, as I start to reflect on that and take more and more from that experience, it lets me essentially anticipate what I need to do to get ahead of all of the work. So if you know the flow, you can work ahead on potential orders. You can make the correct phone calls or consults. You can prep notes ahead of time. You can help and ask for help from students and from the team to prep things ahead of time. So knowing the flow allows you to anticipate and react and will help the team more. And another thing that I've noticed is when you're on a team, if things get backed up, it slows everyone down and people get grumpy, they want to go home. So understanding the big picture flow of things and knowing how that plays out allows everyone to appreciate you, allows you to work more effectively, and it can allow to take some of the work off yourself and take work off the team. So taking note of having a more reflective process while I've been working and understand the flow has, I think, helped me better appreciate how I can help the team. So that has been something I've learned this month and a week is taking into consideration the big picture of stuff and how I might better. Number 9, and I think I've just kind of alluded to this throughout this whole conversation, is the concept of being a really good team player. It's funny, and I really hate it. Our medical system can breed a lot of competition, and competition can be super helpful in one aspect in that it pushes you to want to understand, to learn, and to be the best that you can be in order to have that knowledge to help people. That's really great. On the other hand, being super competitive is arguably not that helpful in a teamwork setting like at the hospital. When you flip that model and you just ask, like, how can I help everyone here do their job more efficiently, more effectively, then you're helping the team and everyone appreciates you more. So having effective teamwork skills is super helpful. The main aspect of what that means is looking at what your position is on the team, looking at the big picture of what needs to be done, and then asking yourself, what can I do now to help the team better? Maybe the best thing you can do is just to get your work done first and efficiently. If you can work fast and you can work efficiently and effectively, then you can start to take the load off of other people, and everyone appreciates that. And I'm not just talking about the direct teamwork between the doctors. I'm also talking about the work that you could be doing for the nurses. I think I had spoken earlier in another interview about the one time that on a discharge, something super small, I just took out the IV from a patient that was getting discharged. I made sure that the wound was clean, and I just set that up for a nurse, and she was like, wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You know, those little things where you have the time to grab someone water, that you have time to help out a nurse, it really brings joy to your day. So being a team player in all aspects of what that means, not only do people love that, but it brings you personal joy. So I definitely wanted to emphasize that learning point from what I've gotten out of these 5 weeks. Number 10 is having a system. The first few days of my clinical rotations when I'm starting something new is super difficult because you're meeting new people. You don't have kind of a sense of the flow or how the system works for this specific team. And it can make things really choppy. And a lot of the reasons why it's choppy is you don't have a system. But once I kind of have adapted and I get a sense of how things work, I can create a system that best allows me to tackle the day most efficiently. So in medicine, I actually appreciated, if you guys have heard of online med ed, I actually interviewed Dustin Williams on this podcast. But in his Intern guide, he has a really good systematic approach for data tracking for patients, and also a systematic approach for creating your to-do lists and all of that stuff. It is a super helpful system, and I really enjoyed it. And again, Dustin did not pay me to tell you guys that. I actually just really like how he organizes stuff. So definitely check out the Intern guide in general. It's a really good resource. But having a system to be able to tackle the day more effectively, to batch things, batch tasks so that you can work effectively, allows you to tackle your day better. I'll give you an example of that so you could apply that in the way that you do work. For example, if you have, let's say, 10 patients and you want to follow up in the morning kind of what's happened, the quick system that I do is I look at the patient's chart. I figure out what changes were made overnight so I can either A, speak to a nurse, or B, check the progress notes, or C, get the sign out from the physician, which is probably the most helpful thing because they've been working with the patient. But the main thing is gathering what happened overnight since you last saw them, and doing that for each patient, which includes what medication changes happened, what laboratory values changed, and if there were any events that happened overnight. And I just make sure to jot that down, quickly review that for each patient, And then my next systematic approach is asking, what is my to-do list for each person for that day? Okay, so just kind of reflecting down the chart, what are my to-dos for each person? So now you see that I have the updates and I have the to-do list kind of, and then I just make sure I go see every patient around on them, and then I write my notes. This is for example, a medicine approach, but that's a systematic way to gather data, to make sure that you see all the patients, and then you write all the notes. Now, if you don't have that type of system in place, and you can do it whatever way you want that works for you, it can get super choppy. You might not have a reflective process in which you can ask yourself, how could I do that a little bit better? Because if you're disorganized, then you can't pinpoint where the mistakes are. So, or where you could increase your efficiency. And again, I talk about efficiency a lot, and I've said that a lot, but being effective frees up time, frees up space for you to do other things during the day, kind of like peeing and pooping and I don't know, helping people so you get out on time. Like, that's pretty cool. Maybe freeing up some time so you can just chit chat with your coworkers and have a normal conversation. How cool would that be, right? So for me, efficiency isn't about, it's one of the ways that by doing things more effectively, you can just be more relaxed throughout your day instead of having that anxiety that goes on. So having a system, that's a big point here, because it just makes you better and it makes you able to have more time. So I really wanted to discuss that point, and something I've learned through these 5 weeks. Number 11 is, this is about mindset for me, and it's the serenity prayer mindset / the Stoic philosophy mindset / essentially the concept is, if you can't change it right now, at least enjoy what's going on and make things better. So Stoic philosophy is kind of this thing, or, serenity prayer is, essentially it is, know the things that you can change, know the things you can't change, and have the wiseness to know the difference. So when I think about this in medicine, I can't actively change the fact that I have to work a 12-hour shift, or that I'm going to be at the hospital for 14 hours, or that I can't see my friends or significant others or whatever it may be. I can't change that fact every day. So I could mope around and be upset by it, or I can accept it, take it in, realize that it sucks, and then move forward and enjoy my day. Okay? And it's really as simple as that. I mean, I could spend the energy to complain, or I could just use whatever that extra energy I was losing, I could just spend that on enjoying, being around people and enjoying my time at work. I don't always do this. I'm not always perfect. I'm going to be exhausted and I'm going to be moody and whatever. But when we serenity prayer, not just our work days, but our life, it makes the process more enjoyable. It sucks. I know. I get it. We live in a system that was not built to make us happy. And if you haven't heard that before, guys, like, this is a new flash. Working 12 hours a day is not healthy for you. Especially at the capacity that we do. Not meeting your basic physiology is not healthy for you. Not being able to exercise regularly is not healthy for you. We live in a model that is not sustainable for the physical needs of our human body. And that's okay. I accept that. I am not going to be the one that forgets that, and I want to actively build things that allow the healing process, the healing profession to be better. I'm not going to settle for that in my life, and I'm sure as hell not going to settle for that when it comes to other people's lives. I mean, there's depression and suicide for a reason. That was a long rant, but my point is that we can't change it right now. We accept it, and we enjoy the process for what it is, and we do a little bit better each day. And that's my take on that point. That's my philosophy when it comes to that part of this conversation. I want everyone to accept the fact that certain parts are going to suck, and, do it with a smile, do things a little bit better, because again, your team is going to appreciate it. Your patients are going to appreciate it. And then afterwards, take the time to reflect on how we might build things better, not just for ourselves, but for our future, the future generations of people that come behind you, including the students and including your kids that may or may not want to go into medicine in the future. That was a little bit of a rant, but I hope I hope you get the point across that accept it and do a better job today. Number 12 is be humble for your patients. I know there's a lot of pride in medicine, and we've all worked hard and we're smart. But honestly, the Krebs cycle doesn't stick for me. It's not hardwired into my brain, and I don't have my coagulation pathway down and memorized. And maybe there's something I'm not understanding with the medication regimen I'm seeing with the patient in front of me. If something sounds confusing and I'm not sure, in the past, especially as a student, I may not have always asked the question because I didn't want to look dumb. This is an obvious question. I should know the way that the aspirin works. I should know the dosing of Tylenol or whatever. But, it's not about being dumb anymore. Now, if I don't ask the question, I could be hurting a patient. And so I always ask the question, or I try to, especially if it affects patient care. And I would much rather look unintelligent but gain some knowledge rather than hurting a human life. So if not for myself, I ask to be humble and ask important questions for the sake of the patient. Most of the time, the question is actually appreciated. I think 9 times out of 10, asking a clarifying question could actually help in the fact that maybe there's a reason why I'm confused. Maybe there was a mistake in how things were phrased. And so asking that clarifying question is helpful for everyone. And it could also be turned into a learning point. So I think being humble and just having that curiosity to ask is something that is important that I've learned through my experiences this month. Lucky number 13 is recharge. This is actually something that's been really prevalent in a lot of the conversations we're having with happy doctors, successful doctors, is knowing what recharges you. So if you're more introverted and you've been around a lot of people throughout your day and you need to recharge yourself by being by yourself, take the time to be by yourself. For me, I'm a little bit of a mix. So for me, the big things that give me energy are that I've noticed is 1, sleep, and I think everyone needs to sleep, so that's pretty universal. 2, for me, is exercise. If I exercise consistently or find times to do that during the week, it is huge. It boosts my mood, and it allows me, again, to be more effective at the workplace. So exercise has been huge for me, and honestly, we're built to move. Humans are made to move, so I think that's also probably a very universal thing as well. And who doesn't love endorphins, right? So exercise has been huge for me. Another thing that helps me recharge is meditation. That is probably the number one thing that has absolutely changed my life, and I do not know where I would be if not for meditation. So those are some of the things that I use to recharge myself. And of course, seeing friends, being with loved ones, enjoying the present moment, enjoying a meal, having a good conversation, speaking to friends, reaching out to people that need help outside of your work. Like, all those things are, super recharging for me. So I really love that stuff. And when you're recharged, you can help people better. No, guys, turning to alcohol, spending, having some sort of binge night, those types of things can be helpful short term. However, long term could really mess with you. So, take some time to think about those types of things. I'm not trying to lecture here, but seriously, like, there's some healthy decisions we can make, and then there's some unhealthy ones. So knowing how to recharge in a healthy way has definitely helped me during these 5 weeks. Number 14 is communication. Communication is absolutely key. And this actually does feed into the teamwork area as well. There are a lot of parts that we assume people know, but if we don't explicitly state it, they might never know. So if you're confused about something, you should explicitly ask the question about what's going on with the plan. If some change has been made, you should explicitly state what change has been made. There's the idea, especially in like ACLS training, where there's two-way communication. I forgot the exact term, but point being is, like, for example, the physician makes an order, and let's say one of the nursing staff is supposed to take care of that order. The nurse then has to repeat what the physician stated and says, like, 1 milligram epi. The nurse then says, okay, 1 milligram epi on it, and whatever, just to repeat the fact that that is the order that's going to be taking place. So in terms of patient care, when my senior resident or attending physician asks me of a task, I'll kind of just let them know that I heard it and acknowledge it, and then also that I'm on it. And another part of this, and I guess this would kind of be like what number are we on? 15, I think. So another part of this would just be the fact that to follow through on what you said you were going to do. It's really like just messed up in a lot of ways when you say you're going to do something and then it doesn't happen, mainly because of like flow and also because of trust. So part of teamwork is trusting the people you're working with. So remembering that you needed to get tasks done. I know it's hard when you have a bunch of things juggled at once, but if you stay organized and are able to follow through, like having that follow through with the communication that you've relayed is super important and part of this point. I've definitely messed up. I've definitely not followed through in parts. And it's not like you get scolded for those things because everyone falls through, but just making sure that you follow through makes you look more credible. It makes you a more worthwhile team player and something that's appreciated. So, consistent communication with follow through is something I've definitely learned from being at work this month. Number 15 is audiobooks and audio listening. So I'm going to be a super boring person if I have nothing else to talk about besides medicine. And expanding knowledge is just so important, especially expanding knowledge, to broaden your horizons, to be able to build out creative things in your life, is just so important to me. And I have the app Audible, and Audible has been really helpful for me because I can listen to really great books that either uplift me or provide me with knowledge that I might not have in a certain area, and it keeps me inspired. One of the books I'm listening to right now is The Book of Joy by the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu, in which they spend a week together talking about the concepts of joy and happiness. And it's a really weird thing for me when I listen to this book. This is actually my second time listening to it, because when I listen to it, especially the Dalai Lama, like, these guys are so authentically happy, and I get to learn some of the concepts from them, and it just makes me feel better. So even though I'm in a really difficult part of my life, arguably one of the most challenging in a lot of ways, I can still keep my spirits up. So you can listen to great music and jam out in the car, and if that helps you, that's super cool. For me, listening to an audiobook in the morning has been a nice uplifting thing that I can do for myself. So that was something I've learned this month that has been really helpful for my life. Number 16 is to stay inspired. For me, I'm a big picture thinker. I'm a dreamer. I'm a visionary. I get excited about possibilities. And even though right now I'm kind of stuck in the weeds, I'm working long hours, I'm in medicine, things are tough, I will not lose my personal humanity, creativity, and inspiration as a human being. I refuse to lose my sense of wanting to make this world a more beautiful place. And I know that's super cheesy, but that's me. I've always had an interest in helping people. That has been the guiding principle, which is what led me to medicine. I've always wanted to have an impact, and whether that means I have an impact on a person in the day, or whether that means that I want to make a bigger impact in the world, I want to keep that inspiration alive. And so I want to make sure I cultivate and maintain that inspiration. That's exactly what I'm doing now with this podcast. It's very important to me to have a project that I can keep on working on and that allows me to reflect. It has paid dividends for me. And this is, again, another example of a force multiplier, which by doing this project, it has paid off in so many ways and so many different connections. Just yesterday, I spoke to someone I would have never connected with. I haven't asked him permission, so I'm not going to let you know who that is. But someone I would have connected with, but because of this podcast, I now have that connection. So guys, whether it's a blog post, whether it's art, whether it's bowling, whether it's drawing, whatever that is for you, stay inspired. Like, be the inspiration. When you're excited, you breathe that and you give that to the world around you. Be a human being. Be interesting. Enjoy your life. Like, I can't tell you how much having this podcast has allowed me to maintain my energy. And so that is the point for number 16. Guys, after reflecting a little bit, that is enough points for today's week. I know it's kind of an odd amount of things I've learned. There's actually a lot more parts to this that I've learned, but for the sake of this episode, I think that's enough information for today. If you guys have any questions, feel free to send an email to thehappydoc1@gmail.com. You can send a direct message on Instagram at thehappydoc1 or on Twitter. You just check out the Happy Doc. For me, the big thing is I just always want to help people. That's, a main mission in my life is how do I take the information from one individual and make them the best that they can be. That's just something that has been very intrinsic to me. I ask that about myself, and I want to bring that energy to other people. I do personalized coaching. I have a team of doctors and students who are also super helpful that I connect you with. So if you're having a tough time, and seriously, I mean this, reach out to me and let's have a conversation. That was a big thing that was really impactful for me in my life, especially when I spoke to Pamela Weibel for the first time, and she was super helpful for me. And if you guys listened to that episode, it was an extreme change to have someone breathe more life into me. So I want to give that opportunity to you. If you guys are feeling inspired or you feel like you're getting something out of this, please let me know how we can connect. That would be awesome. So connect. Reach out to me. I would sincerely appreciate it. Also, with this episode, it's a little bit of a different style. Obviously, that was a monologue. I know that I can speak kind of fast and those types of things, but if you found that episode helpful, if you found that information helpful, if you thought my personal experiences gave you something to think about or utilize in your life, please let me know. If you didn't find that helpful, or if you think there's some critiques that could be made for the following episodes, also let me know. Things are not perfect. I get that, and I just want to keep building my practice of communicating and to relaying messages. I want that to be a little bit better, so please let me know what that feedback is. And again, you can send that to any of the channels, including the website, the email, and the social media. Guys, thank you so much for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you, and I hope you guys have a great week. Take care. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we want you to definitely subscribe to our social media channels. Check out the Happy Doc on Facebook, iTunes, Twitter, and Instagram. Please like, subscribe, share, and send us feedback. And please check out the website, www.thehappydoc.com. Again, we hope you enjoyed the Happy Doc, the voice of fulfilled physicians. Peace out.